What is up, Hammerheads? Welcome back to the Forge. Are you ready for the February project? So today, guys, we're forging these tapered jawed tongs. Stay tuned. So with this particular pair of tongs, I'm using 3/8 square bar, and you can see my tongs are a little bit shorter. Step out of the way so you can see it better. I like a shorter pair of tongs. It's just my personal preference. I feel like I have more control. Make the tines as long as you want to make them. But we're using a piece of 3/8 square bar to do our project. And then when we come out of the fire, if you have not watched my basic video on how to make tongs, you can go back and watch it, but I'm going to try to go into a lot of detail in this video too. We're going to go about 1 inch on the anvil. So I'm going to mark my anvil where I want to stop my material out at, so whenever I start hammering, it's at that point. That's what I get for trying to do stuff backwards. Let's see. About 1 inch. Need to clean up my soapstone. We're about right there, guys. Right here. So let's get in the fire, start getting our metal hot. Remember, 3/8. I don't give a specific length on this. My tines, whenever I get done with them on my particular ones, are gonna be right about 9 inches long. I wouldn't probably go over 1 foot long on the tines for me personally, but I have seen them longer. You do whatever you want to do. Also, guys, this little nipple right here that I did on mine, you do not have to do. You can just leave these straight. This is just something I started doing on mine because I like the design. Okay, guys, so about 1 inch. We're gonna go half on, half off blows. Straight down. Now, on our next heat, we're gonna turn the same direction. So, if you turn, I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna turn what would be clockwise for me. And I'm gonna go right over the horn of the anvil right here. So you can see I made a little indentation right there. So here, here, and then we turn. You always turn the same direction or your tongs will not meet up, okay? So here, then I'm gonna turn. And then you're gonna turn one more time. So, as you can see on this one, this is where we started. Now we're gonna be making where our joint's gonna be right here. And then we'll turn and make that shoulder a little more prominent. Okay, guys, so I'm going here. I'm gonna go at a slight angle. Again, half on, half off blows. Straight down. If you don't know what half on, half off is, guys, sorry. I'm hitting with my hammer half on the anvil and half off the anvil. Now I'm shaping this out just a hair. Now, again, I turn from here, I turn this way. Now I'm gonna turn one more time and hammer straight down. Okay, guys, so here, now I'm turning here, straight down. Again, half on, half off blows, because I'm creating this shoulder. See? Now, a couple things to talk about. When you're making this joint and this shoulder right here, this transition, you can get it too thin and it'll get very weak. So when I come back out of the fire, I have plenty of material here. I'm gonna draw this material out in this section right here and right in here, okay? And then I'm gonna come back and I'm gonna start shaping what will be my jaws. I will forge out my tines once I get the jaws shaped out. And again, shape your jaws however you, or shape your tines however you want to. Now, we're gonna be making a punch in another video. If you have not watched my other tong making video for basic tongs, which are these style, all you're gonna do is stop here, and then you'll start rounding out, start rounding out the inside of your jaw right here. With what I normally use will be the porch and on my anvil, or on another anvil because I don't have a porch on this one. Use the porch and the peen of your hammer and start dishing this out to make it round, and then whatever size material you're gonna make a punch or a chisel or whatever it is out of, then you can start shaping it around that. I've even forged them, got them pretty much done, got this basically set the way I wanted, and then I put the material, heated everything up and put the material inside here, and then rounded it out more. Straighten these real quick, guys. That was bothering me. So, if you do not have a pair of tongs to hold a punch and chisel that we're going to be working on, and we're probably going to be using a 1/2 inch material for that from this point right here, you have the starting of just about any kind of tong. So, you could go ahead, draw this out on both sides a little bit, and then round it. But I'll have a video that I will link at the end that will take you to making those tongs. Guys, so I'm just gonna make this a little more prominent. Now, all I'm doing is making this a little bigger. Straightening everything up. Might have got a little bit too small. We'll make it work. I don't know, almost the perfect same size. Now you see how these will be matching up here in a minute. I still have to draw this out. So now I'm going to be drawing out this portion right here that is going to be my jaws, and then I'll come back and draw out my tines. Now I'm not really going to show the drawing out of the tines because you make yours whatever's comfortable for you. All right, guys, so we're going to start tapering this down. So I'm going to go about right here. Okay, guys, so all I'm doing is drawing this out into a tape. Now, I want to make sure I get it all the right length, so I'm almost there. Got to draw it out just a little bit more. If this is your first one, don't worry about comparing it to anything. You don't have anything to compare it to. But once you've made one, you want to compare everything up to make sure everything will line up accurate. So right now, everything's going well. Drawing this out a little bit more, as you can see. Gonna draw out maybe about 1/4 inch more, roughly. Yeah, about 3/8 inch more. And then I'm gonna start drawing it out wider so we got room to make this trough area. Again, guys, you do not have to put the little nipple right there. You can just start drawing out from right here. I just do that to my tongs. Make sure as you're drawing this out, though, don't mess up what you just did. But you can see I work one side, then I start flattening it out, and it's making it longer. Then measure. See, I'm right there where I need to be. Now I'm gonna make it wider. And I'm gonna make it probably about half the size. It'll be about half the thickness it is now. So when I start drawing this out, I will make it a lot wider so I have enough material to make these sides. All right, guys, so all I'm doing is making this a little wider. If you do not know how to draw something out wider, go back and watch my leaf making video, Back to Basics. And I'll show how to draw the material out wider. But all I'm doing is I'm not kicking my hammer, I'm hammering and I'm pushing the material. So I start back here and I'm hammering it, pushing the material like you would with a piece of dough. Now, it's the wideness that I need it, and you can see it's about the half the thickness that it was. Now I'm going to take it over to an area where I can start using the peen of my hammer to start making the trough area and my tongs right here, that section. Okay? All right, guys, so one thing I'm going to bring up real quick before we start doing this. I'm going to do this over on my swage block. You might not have a swage block. You might not even have an anvil. If you have a vise, you can do it in it. If you don't have a peen for your hammer, you can use a rounded over chisel. So you'll take a chisel and you'll round it where it's no longer sharp, and you can use that and drive down in it. You might need someone to help you hold it if you're having to do it with a vise. But think outside the box on how to make use what you have and make it work for you. Okay, guys? Don't get discouraged if you don't have the exact tool. Look at everything you have around you and go, I can make that work. Even if all you had was 2 pieces of wood nailed down to a board to make these, you can make it work. Just make sure you put a gap between them wide enough that you need to make this trough. Then you can shape it out the rest of the way with the piece of steel, a scrap piece of steel that you have. Notice I'm just barely hitting, guys. I'm not welling on this. Just barely tapping. Now, don't freak out. Let's move back over here to the light a little bit. Here we go. Don't freak out if your jaws right here have like a little bit of an up sweep to them. You can sand that out or use a file to get that cleaned up. Okay? Clean up is always going to happen no matter what you're making. So, all right, so now I'm going to draw out my tines. I'm not going to bring you along for that. Again, you can make your tines any way you want to. I just draw mine out. I'll show you with this one right here. I draw mine out to the desired length, and then I make a handle. I prefer having the handle flat like that, kind of, well, I'll round it over a little bit, but kind of flat with rounded edges. I like the grip of that better. I feel like I get a better control over the material. But you can see how thick I left my tines. I didn't draw these out super thin. And I left this shoulder very thick right here. If you make this transition shoulder right there very thin, you're going to be putting a lot of pressure there and you can break your tongs. All right, guys, so I'm going to I got my hole drilled and drifted. I got everything together. Now, I'm gonna start tapping on this rivet to get it to where it won't come out. Now, what I'm gonna do is go back into the fire, okay? Get this rivet hot and then set it and then start working everything. Because I don't want it to get bent on the inside. There we go. Every once in a while, I've had it happen once. My rivet didn't start upsetting here, it upset underneath the material. If I'm gonna do something, I'm gonna do it right if I'm gonna mess it up, right? So I'm gonna go into the fire and get this rivet a little warm, because that's just something I like doing, you don't have to. And then I'm gonna come out and I'm gonna start getting everything adjusted and start working these to where they'll open and close better. Don't worry that they look like a giant, like a bird screaming. It'll all work out, I promise. Alright guys, if you have a small ball peen, these work very well to drive this down without boogering up stuff too much. Alright. Now, I'm going to go in the fire and get it good and hot. Alright guys, sorry about that. I forgot to hit record a minute ago when I first started getting all these getting this set up. And just was tapping away like crazy and looked over and realized I didn't ever hit record. Now, I'm wanting to leave a gap back here in the back. This is something I want to talk about. This gap back here is there for a purpose. When you are working with something that has a loop in it, you can go in and grab and you're not fighting with where it bends. So I always, on my tapered jaws, leave a little bit of a gap back here in the back, so that whenever, like I said, when I come in with something, and I'll show it more once we get done with them, I can actually grip the material without having to fight with it like you have to if, say, you are using a pair of these style tongs, where you don't have much of a gap back here, and the jaws are completely closed up. I always like leaving a gap, so if I have something that has a bend in it, like a J-hook or a handle, I have room to hold it still good and tight. Okay guys, just a quick tip while I tweak on these. If you are trying to bend your tines closer together, but you have too much heat up front on your jaws, quench everything down to about where you want to where your bend to be. Now you're not going to be pulling really hard, but quench everything down to where you want your bend to start, and then start bending your tines and getting those adjusted. So you're not pulling everything together and then having to readjust too much up here. Quench this when you get it basically set, then bend your tines closer together and adjust them. Okay guys, so I'm just bending these closer together and straightening everything up where I roughly want them. And tweaking takes a little bit, because you can see right there the jaw's not lined up. I've got my tines where I want them, so now I'm going to start, I'll go back in there, I'm going to get my jaws heated up, get everything lined up. I've got to fix this rivet a little bit more because it's not seating good. It's just, you know, tweaking guys, just tweaking. I'm going to do that, and then we'll come back and talk about what we learned. All right, guys, so let's get real for a minute and talk about what we learned today. Well, we forged our tapered jaw tongs. Now, I personally, on these tongs, like having this gap in the center so that I can grip material that has a handle. Now, I kind of showed you in the video, but this is the reason why I do this. Whenever you have something that has a handle or a J-hook, I have fought with them tons of times with tongs like this and never be able to get a good grip, because when it makes that swoop out, I can't get in there because of the shape. So that's the reason why I like making the tongs with a big enough gap in there. I made these specific with a bigger gap because whenever I'm forging flint and steel, I need a little bit wider gap because of where the finial is. So I wanted to make sure I had enough space in there that I did not booger that up. These are used for multi things, guys. Not just for this one project that we're working on. So, we forged our tongs. Now, make sure, and I've already ground it down, sorry about that, but whenever you're making your jaws, sometimes one side will be longer than the other. Clean that up. That can get in your way if you're having to do some detail work. You might end up boogering up that jaw or messing up your material because you're hammering on it when you don't realize it. So make sure, get those as even as possible. Now, I didn't talk about how to forge the tines because I want you to make the tines comfortable the way you like them. I like this style. They're not pretty. They fit in my hand good. I can grip good, but I like them having that little bit of flat, rounded over edge so I just feel like I grip them better. And this is the style that I started making on my tongs. Now, this joint here, this transition of a shoulder to where your tines draw out, leave that a little thicker. It will break. I had a pair break. Actually, the ones that I did in the round, what we forged for the 1/2-inch round bar video, I ended up getting that transition a little too thin, and they broke on me or bent on me. I don't even use them anymore. They're down there underneath the forge. Side note, hang on to mistakes that you've made. If you forged something and messed up on it, hang on to it so you can go back and look at it later and see what you've done wrong. And as you progress, you can see how you've progressed and see how well you've grown. So I always hang on to some older projects so I know what I've done wrong and I can go back and look at it and look at how far I've came. Now, back to these tongs. Very simple process to make these, guys. Be careful to not get your metal too thin when you're drawing it out. You're gonna go probably about an 1/8 inch thick on it, okay? And then when you're going to round it up, if you do not have a hammer with a peen, go to Harbor Freight or Northern Tool, Tractor Supply, Ace Hardware, Walmart, anywhere that sells chisels. Get a cheap flea market, yard sale, scrap yard. I can go on all day. Get a cheap chisel that's a little thick, okay? Round it up and use that to make your taper for your jaws. We're going for about 1/4 inch, 3/8, somewhere's in between there, because we're gonna be drawing this material out for our leaf and for our bottle opener. It's gonna get down to about 1/4 inch thick, roughly. So that's why I did these the thickness I did them. I'm using them for other things, but you're gonna want it to be about 1/4 inch gap, roughly. Doesn't have to be exact on the money, but get to where it'll close up to about 1/4 inch or a little bit lower so you can get a good grip on it. And then you can also put a little bit bigger material in there also, okay? So, again, be careful with your joint. Pay attention to the thickness of your jaws, that you don't get them too thin so they don't break. And then we're gonna set the gap on them, like I said, to roughly about 1/4 inch, a little bit bigger, around in that area, so you can grip the material whenever we go to forge it. Because once we start drawing out our stem and everything, it's gonna be about that thickness. All right, guys, this is the video. Remember, if you have not forged your 3 or your 1/2 inch round jaw tongs, and if you would like me to do a new video on that, because that's an older video, it's one of my earlier videos, I'm more than happy to go and do that for you guys. Might put us behind on the project, but I would rather us do it right and everybody have all the tools they need than us rush through it. So if you'd like to see that, let me know. I'll go back and redo that video. And if you haven't picked up your material yet for your punch and your chisel, get that, because that's going to be the next 2 videos. So that's everything, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you have any questions or comments, please send them to me. I will answer every comment that I get as fast as I can. I try my best to answer every one of them. Also, check out the affiliate links in the bottom. When you support my affiliates and sponsors, you also support me so I can continue to do this. Trying to think if there's anything else, guys. Don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button, and I will see you on the next one. God bless. Keep hammering.